Hey folks, welcome back to another Throat Punch Lunch. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Glad to see all you guys have returned. Now, as we are recording this on the week of January 9th, 2017, we currently here at the Dice Tower have our Indiegogo campaign fundraiser running over at Indiegogo.com. And so if you have any inkling of desire to want to see the Dice Tower to continue, please consider going and checking out that campaign. There's a lot of great promos, a lot of great rewards, a lot of great thank yous that we basically send out to you guys for supporting us. So if you would please consider doing that, great. Moving on from that, and kind of the natural progression is we have a 36-hour gaming marathon that is starting tomorrow on January 12th, 2017. So again, if you are watching this on Wednesday, the 11th, be sure to come back for the 12th and the 13th so that you can check out that marathon. But if you're viewing this afterwards, well, it's still on our channel. You can go check that out as well. Should be a great time. Now, with all that aside and without further ado, this episode is a great episode. I actually have most of my contributors coming back and firing up for the new year. Still missing a couple of them. Looking at you, Breacher 18. Really hope that they can get back and get settled. Life happens, and I understand that completely. Believe me. But this episode looks like it's going to be a great episode for you guys. I'm very excited to present it to you. So without further ado, let's hit it.
2016 was a great year for thematic games. There were lots of games that gave us experiences in other worlds, settings, and time. But that's history now. It's 2017, and there will be a plethora of new thematic games to hit the shelves.
What is a plethora?
So let's kick off this new year with my top 3 most anticipated thematic games of 2017 in this installment of Face Up, Center of the Table. With it being this early in the year, there are many great games that will be coming out that we don't even know about. So my list is just coming from rumors and speculation. And with that in mind, let's get started. What was that? Oh, we just got our video editing budget in for the year, didn't we? Look, let's just be cool, all right? Remember, we got to make this stretch the entire year, okay? My number 3 is Massive Darkness from CMON Games. This very successful Kickstarter from 2016 is a fantasy dungeon crawler from the designers of Zombicide. In this game, you take on a classic fantasy role as you and a party of characters delve into a dungeon, completing quests, fighting monsters, and discovering loot. The draw to me for this game is that you earn XP as you play, which can be used to gain additional abilities for your character, much like you do in a pen and paper role-playing game. And any game where my character can grow and change over time is one that I'm definitely going to be interested in. Look, don't waste any money on those silly transitions, just straight cuts, alright? Dude. Seriously, straight cuts. I loathe you. My number 2 is Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is still the #1 rated game on BGG, so there is a lot of anticipation for Season 2. Early buzz is that it's a continuation to the story from Season 1 and will add some new elements and mechanics to the game. My family had such a great time playing through Season 1, so we can't wait to see what Season 2 will bring. Now, I know there's no official word of Season 2 coming out in 2017, but we do know that designers Matt Leacock and Rob Davio are working on it, and there were leaked images of the game at Essen. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we'll get to see this on our shelves this year. Coming in at number 1 is First Martians from Portal Games. First Martians is a cooperative adventure game much like Portal's Robinson Crusoe. However, in this Mars-themed game, there will be an app that guides you through scenarios of a campaign. This app saves the state of the game from scenario to scenario so that decisions you make early in the campaign can affect the campaign later on. I had a chance to play a prototype of the game in 2016. It's one of those games that mixes both thematic and Euro elements that I really enjoy. We'd hoped to see this game in 2016. However, designer Ignacy Cevicek and his team wanted to make this game the best they could, so they delayed it until this year. And we can't wait to see the fruits of their labor in the coming months. Those are the thematic games I'm looking forward to this year. Granted, there are many more coming that I don't even know about. Regardless, I can't wait to see which ones will be my favorite for 2017. Of the thematic games you know about, which are you looking forward to coming in 17? Let me know in the comments. Are you done?
Hi, this is Ambie from Board Game Blitz, and this is Strategically Thematic, a segment where I talk about theme in different strategic games. This time, I'm talking about Kanban, Automotive Revolution. Kanban is a game where you're a manager in an assembly line at a car factory. You're trying to impress your boss, Sandra, by working efficiently in your development of automobiles. In Kanban, you control one worker, which represents you, and you move it around the factory to do different actions. Each location in the factory represents a different part of the assembly line in making cars. First, you'll need to get designs in the design department. Materials are in the logistics department. The cars are created in the assembly line department, and they're tested and upgraded in the testing and innovation department. The last section is the administration department, and you can oversee any part of the assembly line from here. Each department also has a certification track, which you can advance on by training in that department. Basically, once you reach a certain level of certification, you become better at that department. For example, if you get certified in the assembly line department, you can store 5 cars in your garage instead of the usual 4. One of the interesting mechanisms is that your boss, Sandra, is a worker that's moved around by the game. Basically, she goes around to the different locations in the factory and judges how well you're doing your job. There are 2 modes to the game, nice or mean. So she either rewards you or penalizes you depending on how well you're doing in that specific area. I think this is super thematic because it makes you stay efficient in order to stay on top of your job. Whenever she comes around, you have to make sure you're above a certain threshold in each area. So it's kind of like a super stressful performance review each turn. There are 2 types of scoring in the game, meetings and factory production. Since you're a manager, you attend a bunch of meetings to discuss your different performance goals. Basically, you can pick different topics to discuss at the meetings. And if you've done a bunch of stuff in that area, you'll get points. But if you discuss it after someone else has already discussed it, you can't get as many points. And you might not even be able to discuss it because your boss has already heard it from someone else. The other type of scoring depends on the cars you've built. Since you're at a car factory, it makes sense that you get points based on actually making nice cars. For this scoring, you get points for all the cars you've made, but only if that model has been upgraded by testing different designs on the car. If you just have a base model that hasn't been developed at all, you'll get no points for it. Kanban is a pretty complex game, and there are a lot of rules to remember. But throughout the game, you really feel like you're trying to run a super efficient assembly line, and you're always reminded of the stress of your boss breathing down your neck. All of the mechanics in the game work together to create a super thematic experience, while still being a heavy strategy game. Thanks for watching Strategically Thematic. Let me know what your favorite thematic strategic games are in the comments below.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jennette the Metal Meeple, and this is the Miniature Breakdown. So in this episode of Throat Punch Lunch, I want to highlight a game that I enjoy quite a bit, and that's Yashima by Greenbrier Games. Now, Yashima is a miniature game for pretty much 2+ players. For the most part, you could do like a free-for-all, or you can do teams, which is what I like to do the most. Usually like 2-on-2 or 3-on-3. And the idea is you get a character, and you take his or her special cards, they get 10 of them, and you mix them in with one of the commies that are in the game. A commie is a deck of cards, and then those generate your character for that match. Now, I have done reviews of this and some of its expansions, so feel free to check those out on the Dice Tower as well, but I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of this since we're talking about miniatures here. Anyway, this is the board to Yashima once you kind of set it up, and each player is going to get one of the miniatures here. This is Dokubaba. They are PVC style miniatures, so they're not as highly detailed as pewter or resin, but they get the job done. And basically, you're going to be moving around this board trying to kill each other. Now, you get your character card with special abilities. You have a spell book in which the book actually opens, and you have different powers that you can cast when the spells are are seeable, basically. And then each character is going to have 10 cards that are unique to its person. This one's Dokubaba's deck. You combine these with a kami deck, like this one here, the Phoenix, and that makes up your character's deck. And the reason that's important is because those together are your character's hit points. Once the deck is gone and your draw hand is gone, you die. You actually go into a restored state, which actually makes you more powerful, interestingly enough. The problem is you can't win the game at that point, which lends the game into two things. If it's a free-for-all, it becomes more of a kingmaker type game, and if you like that kind of thing, then that's cool. Personally, I don't, so I play this game primarily as a team-based game or one-on-one. But it's cool in a two-plus player mode, because when you're fighting 2-on-2 and then one of your teammates goes into restored mode, he's a BA, and he can come back and, kind of even the odds for you. So the other team has to kind of maybe get both players down to almost dead and then finish them off. That might be like a really good, thing to try out, or maybe just go all out on one guy. Anyway, what's interesting thing about this game is, you've got the attack pattern when you cast the attacks, and it's going to hit every space in that pattern. So this guy right here would be hitting these 3 spaces in front of him. And the interesting thing about this game is there are no dice. Everything's absolute. So if you look at the card, it's going to show you the attack of that card. And sorry, my sleeves here are probably glaring, but this attack is 3. So the player who gets hit by that is actually going to discard 3 cards off their top of their deck into their discard pool. Now that's bad because those are hit points, obviously, and plus maybe some of your more powerful cards just got eliminated. So it's a really fun, interesting game. The only other thing I'll touch on, since we don't have a lot of time here, is that on your turn you actually select one of the tokens out in the middle of the table to either choose a move action or an attack action, and these are generated based on the beginning of the match or each round, and it's the players plus a couple. And so you're not always going to have the ability to do an attack, because if there's no attack token there, you have to pick a move token. There's other things you can do as well, but that's the gist of the game. It's really fun, and for a person who really likes the WoW miniatures game, this kind of scratches that itch. Anyway, guys, till next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Zielinski. Welcome to Countercharge. I wanted to start my segment off with Kings of War International Campaign Day. Go to Facebook, look up Kings of War International Campaign Day. You'll find a closed group. Just click join, and Chris Kapsner or Mark Cox will let you join up. Right now all the scenarios are posted. This is going to happen January 14th, 2017. So if you play Kings of War, you're a little bit interested in Kings of War, check it out. They got some special rules. Like I said, the scenarios are posted. Check it out. Right now we have 12 countries and I think 62 locations around the world signed up. So if you have any interest at all, just check it out, even if you're not going to play, but I hope you will. And of course, I'm going to talk about another game today. And since we're talking about Kings of War, which is a Mantic game, let's review another Mantic game right now. All right, and the game we're going to talk about today, The Walking Dead All-Out War by Mantic Games. This is a board game with a lot of miniatures in it, and it's all about The Walking Dead. Now, this one is based on a comic book, not the TV series, so no Daryl. Sorry, guys, but the miniatures are fantastic. They sculpted them just like the comic book, and so why don't we go ahead and check it out on the close cam. All right, welcome to The Walking Dead All Out War by Mantic Games. I went ahead and set up the basic scenario right over here in a 10-inch by 10-inch square, and you're going to find that here in the Read First book. This has a tutorial of how to play the game as well as a layout of all the components that you're going to find in the game. Now, of course, I got the Kickstarter edition, so I ended up getting some extra gribblies in there like these 3D trucks as opposed to the cardboard trucks. And you can go ahead and buy those as a separate add-on scenery pack. So we don't have much time to go over everything, but we do have some specialized dice here. One of them is the panic die in case your particular character loses his nerve. And of course, there's 3 different strengths of dice. The red is the weakest, the white is next, and then of course the strongest die is the blue die. So the game is played in different phases. In the action phase, your players are going to be able to take up to 2 actions. And then here on this ruler, you can see one of those is moved, so they can either sneak, which if they sneak, they can move up to 4 inches, and then they won't make any noise and attract any of the walkers. And if they run, of course, that's going to make noise and attract walkers. So we'll run over there. So if you do run, the closest walker is going to go ahead and move into melee combat with the person who made the noise, okay? And the walkers shamble 6 inches, all right? So after that, then the walkers are going to see who's in their kill zone. And in this particular case, there's nothing but, in this case, Sandra over here is in that, so she's going to attract yet another walker to her location, okay, because she moved, all right? And then if that's not enough, you go ahead and draw one of these event cards. So in this particular case, the player moves 1 eligible walker in the direction of their choice. So we're going to move a walker. He's going to shamble 6 inches and attack good old Patrick here, okay? So if that wasn't enough, at the beginning of each melee phase, if there's a melee going on, the threat zone, the threat marker goes up by 1, all right? And so that increases the threat level. And on those event cards, you'll see that the threat level, the results get worse as the threat level goes up. So the basics on this is that they're going to roll dice to attack. Let's just do Patrick over there. He has a white die, and the walker has a red die, so they're going to roll off. In this case, the walker is going to defeat Patrick. Patrick is then going to take 1 point of damage and get backed off 1 inch. And that's basically how melee works. All right? Then, at the end of any phase, if there's a walker that's knocked down, let's say this walker was knocked down, you roll a die, and on the sheriff's badge, the walker goes ahead and stands back up again. All right? And then you move on to the next turn. Pretty straightforward. Now that was really just the basics how to play. You can go online to the Mantic Games website at manticgames.com. They've got a set of videos to teach you how to play the game, which is fantastic. But in 3 minutes, I really can't show you everything. So this game is also only $50, which is a great value. You can also find this online probably for $40. But always remember, if you've got a local game store, if they're carrying the game, pay where you play. Support that local game store. And until next time, take care.
Now it's time to share the love. With me, Lara Williams.
Hey everyone, I'm Lara from Married with Board Games, here with ideas on how you can share your love of gaming with friends and family. Card drafting as the main mechanism in a game is something that is relatively new to me. Sure, there are games where you are given 3 cards, you pick one and then discard the rest, but today I'm going to be talking about the kind of drafting where the entire action of the game relies on choosing cards from a selection and then passing those cards around the table until they've all been passed out. One game that utilizes this mechanism incredibly well is Sushi Go. Before I even get into the mechanisms, I want to talk about the first thing that attracted me to this game, the artwork. The images of the little happy sushi and other dishes are so cute. You can't help but smile when you look at them. This would be a great way to garner interest to begin with. Show your friends and family the cute little sushis and say, "How can you resist such a cute little game?" Yes, men, I fully expect you to say those words. Now, on the drafting mechanic, how many times a week do you pick and choose from a list of things? Like ordering from a menu? In drafting, you are presented with choices and you want to pick the best option for you. The thing I like about Sushi Go is once you do pick and reveal to everyone what you selected, you continue to pass the cards around, so your options to choose from are different each turn. It's so rewarding to make decisions based on what combinations you think you can complete in order to get the most points. Plus, the absences of any other major mechanisms is what really makes this a great game to introduce the concept of card drafting. Players can focus solely on learning it without being too overwhelmed. Once you think your friends and family have a good grasp on card drafting and you think they enjoy it, you can introduce them to games that utilize the mechanism, such as Seven Wonders, Imperial Settlers, Steampunk Rally, or Tides of Time. Do you have any other suggestions for next step drafting games? If so, let me know. Comment here or tweet to me at MarriedWithBG. Thanks so much for watching and keep on sharing the love.
This is Roy Cannaday from Epic Gaming Night, and this is Roll with the Punches, where we talk about randomness in games and how it can make a game exciting, and also how to twist luck into your favor. We normally don't get a whole lot of snow down here in the south, but I'm all snowed in and game night was canceled. So what are you to do when there's snow and no one to play games with? It's time to play a solo game, and today we're looking at Space Hulk Death Angel. In Space Hulk Death Angel, players are trying to clear the ship of gene stealers at multiple locations. Once you've cleared out the gene stealers, you get to progress to the next location. Gene stealers will spawn out of the blip pile depending on the location. Event cards will tell you where they spawn, whether it's at the red, yellow, orange, or green locations around your units. After gene stealers spawn at their location, you'll then have to choose which card you want to use to activate each unit. There are support cards, move and activate cards, and attack cards with different special abilities for each different unit. You'll choose which card you use to activate each unit, but you won't be able to use the same ability twice in a row. Some cards are high risk, high reward, like Brother Claudio's ability to automatically defeat 3 gene stealers, but then you roll the die, and if you get a 0, he is then defeated. When you choose the support action, you get to place support tokens on a unit. Support tokens can be used by that unit to re-roll the dice when it's defending or attacking, which can be awesome to set up crazy combos, especially with cards like Psionic Attack, where each time you roll a skull and hit in combat, you get to re-roll the die and you can continue attacking over and over. Making sure to equip the proper character with support tokens so they can re-roll dice and make sure that their attacks hit and their defenses don't knock them out is very critical to winning this game. Eventually, you'll lead your Marines to the final location, which will have the objective to win the game. You want to make sure you set up your Space Marines with lots of support and minimize risk, and hopefully make sure to set yourself up to take out the gene stealers, save the ship, and win the game. Death Angel is definitely a very interesting game where it's all about moving your units around, trying to make sure to take out the gene stealers. Everything comes down to this little die, so it's all about setting up, making sure you have enough rerolls on the right characters to try to make sure they get the hits, take out the gene stealers, or can reroll if the gene stealers would kill off your Space Marines. So yeah, it's definitely all about trying to mitigate that luck in the game and figure out when to take risks and when to play it safe. I've had the game, it normally just snowballs. Speaking of being snowed in, it snowballs and you get crushed by the weight of all the gene steals. If you start to lose a couple Space Marines, you just get wiped totally out. But it's definitely a super interesting game, and it's pretty fun to solo because you're just moving the guys around and can roll the dice and just see what happens. Dice always make the game tense, so I think dice in games are always fun, having that luck element and never knowing and just hoping that you don't roll something that's going to be terrible and figuring out what to do when that does happen. So yeah, this has been Roll with the Punches. Thanks so much for checking us out, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hey folks, welcome back to another segment of Just Missed It, where I'm going to be taking a look at games that just missed the mark for one reason or another and for one thing or another. Last week I shared with you some of the games that just missed the mark for my top 100 games that I did last year because I just didn't play them in time. So, that's going to be the kind of avenue that I take with this segment is really kind of open-ended. So this week I'm going to take a look at this game right here. It's called Age of Thieves, and it just missed the mark from staying in my collection. I'm going to show you why here in just a few minutes, so let's get to it. Age of Thieves is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players, where each player is going to be taking on the role of a thief within the game. During the game, players use the unique abilities of their thieves as well as various action cards to try to stay away from the city guard that is constantly patrolling the city. Through clever card play of the action cards, you can maneuver your way around the different kinds of city guards that are there, trying to make your way to the palace. If you get caught, you're going to be sent to the dungeon, but if you get to the palace, you're going to want to try to steal the royal jewel and make it out of the city as quickly as possible. So as you can see, Age of Thieves is actually really looks like a pretty cool game, right? It was one of the games that I was most anticipating as we were going into Essen last year. And when I finally got it to the table, first of all, it drug on too long for what it is. And coming from me, I like games like TI3 that take 6 hours to play. So that's saying something. If a game doesn't hold my attention for an hour and a half, maybe just an hour, then something's wrong, something's missing. So the first thing that I thought was missing from Age of Thieves is the idea of combat with the guards. I just thought it was kind of weird how, the guards show up and the thieves just kind of go, hey, you got me, sorry, and they take you off to jail. Why can't I have some kind of a die roll? You've got 2 8-sided dice in the game, so why don't you utilize them for more than just initiative? Maybe a die roll to say, if you roll higher than this number or lower than this number, you get to escape, 2 spots away or 1 spot away, or I don't know, something like that. Something that simply provides a little bit more of a thematic struggle between the thieves and the guards. I don't know. I know there are cards in the deck that help you shield yourself, kind of, but sometimes you just don't have those cards in your hand because they haven't come up on those card pulls. So, some way, give me a chance of not getting caught. And, that gives you a little bit of a different element, maybe almost a push your luck type element where a guard's going to come and get you, but you always have that chance of getting away. Maybe it tips the balance of the game in the wrong direction. I don't know. Maybe it's just not what the designers were wanting to do. I wanted to see more combat. And because there wasn't more combat in the game, it just missed the mark. See you guys on the flip side.
Throat Punchies, I'm Forrest from Bowers Game Corner. I'm back again for 3 reasons where I do something vaguely related to the number 3. We're going to be wrapping up our best of 2016 / preview of 2017 today, talking about my top 3 most anticipated board games of 2017 that I think are a little bit under the radar right now. Now, before we get started, I do want to mention these are all games that I have not had an opportunity to play. I want to give a shout out to 2 games which I know are fantastic and I'm super excited about, that are Chimera Station from Tasty Minstrel Games and Leaders of Euphoria from Overworld Games, aka a good cop, bad cop killer. I'm telling you, it's that good. But let's get to number 1, which is Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game from Fallen Dominion Studios. This was my most amazing looking game that I saw at Gen Con, and it is coming out this year. Adventure, politics, economics, post-apocalyptic wasteland. You're going to be running your little city. There's storytelling. There's tons and tons and tons of cards. And this is the kind of game where the cards tell the story, and it just seems like there's an absolutely insane amount of variability in the events and the actions and the weapons and every choice you make. It's 2 to 5 players, 2 to 5 hours. It is a meaty, epic sounding, absolutely incredible experience, hopefully, that, I'm praying the rule booklet is good. But man, that looks really, really awesome. Put that one on your radar if you like epic games. Next is Fog of Love from Hush Hush Projects. This is a game, a 2-player game, in which you are going to try and make a relationship work. It's a mostly cooperative game where you are going to have a stormy love affair. Now, I don't normally like to read things off a teleprompter, but I'm actually just going to read you the Board Game Geek description, and that is probably going to get you salivating. So Fog of Love is a card game for 2 players who act out a stormy love affair. You play from the very first sparks of attraction through the in-law encounters, awkward situations, arguments, parties, thoughtful gifts, secret affairs, kids, and reconciliations to a hopefully happy ending. Each player has a character made up from different personality traits that influence what they desire and want to avoid. You can become a one-legged, disorganized, cocky female pilot who gets a kick out of adventures, a kind, nerdy male TV celebrity. Like, it sounds like an incredibly cool concept for a game. You are given this character. The person you're playing with is given this character. Make their loving relationship work. That sounds like an absolutely awesome idea. I am very excited about this game. Fog of Love, fingers crossed this one turns out to be a winner. Last but not least, and this one, I'm going to put it under the radar. I think it's under the radar, but once it really picks up steam, I think this is going to be one of the most anticipated games of the year, but you're going to hear about it right now, and that is Charterstone from Stonemaier Games. Wow, this is my most anticipated game of the year, period. It is Stonemaier Games' attempt at a legacy game. It's a 1 to 6 player. Yeah, so you can play this thing solo. That is going to give you 11 plus worker placement legacy games. We're going to be like building this city building game. It's economics. It's Stonemaier Games, who has an absolutely flawless track record with me. You know you're going to get top-notch quality, top-notch production. And the best thing about this board is it's not going to be a disposable game, a la Pandemic Legacy, where most likely you're never going to play it after you finish it. Apparently, you're going to have like a one-of-a-kind worker placement game that you'll want to play after that in the future that you created yourself. That sounds really cool. As of now, the details are kind of hush-hush because it is a legacy game. But wow, this is the game that I am most excited about this year. Get hyped. Go check out the BGG page on it. See if you can leach out a little bit more information. But that one, to me, looks like my most anticipated game of 2017. But those are my top 3 most anticipated under-the-radar games of 2017. What is your most anticipated game of 2017? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, back to more throat-punching goodness.
Welcome to another episode of Solo-Thrash, Amerithrash Gaming for those of us who like to play alone. One of the most talked about solo games of this season is a new release from Fantasy Flight Games, Arkham Horror, the living card game. For those of you who are not familiar with living card games, they're card games that become a continuing adventure through regular expansions. The Arkham Horror LCG is set in the same universe as Eldritch Horror and Mansions of Madness, so it's another game that's set in the world of H.P. Lovecraft. You might be thinking to yourself, do I really need another Cthulhu game? Also, if you play the Lord of the Rings living card game, which is another LCG from Fantasy Flight, you might think, do I really need to invest in another LCG right now? Here's what I would say to that. If you really love deck construction, and you also love the idea of playing through a campaign where your choices have consequences later in the story, then Arkham Horror, the card game, might be for you. Arkham Horror promises something that other living card games do not: extended campaign play. Because the game follows a storyline, I'm trying to avoid spoilers here. But you will play as an investigator with different strengths and weaknesses, and your character will be represented by a deck that gets to be tweaked over time. After each scenario, your investigator can gain experience points and then spend those experience points on deck upgrades. During each adventure, you explore various locations, so you start with the study, and you try to collect clues, which you then use to advance the plot of the story. There are actually 2 sets of event cards that you use in a given play session. So there's the enemy's agenda cards, which tell you what the bad guys are up to. If this agenda advances too far, it's not good for you. And then there are cards that represent your own progress. If the enemy keeps advancing while you fail to progress, things aren't going to end well, and you'll have to cope with the consequences of your actions for the remainder of the campaign. To help you collect clues and succeed as an investigator of otherworldly events, your investigator has a deck of cards that will hopefully become stronger over time. Several of your cards modify your chances of success in combat or in investigative tasks, and you're going to need them. Whenever you attempt a skill check, you have to draw a token that modifies your overall total, and they can be devastating. For example, I might need to have a 4 might to pass a check, which looks like it would be easy since my investigator already has 4 might. You can see this little 4 right by the fist. However, if I pull a -2 token, then I've failed. The goal of this game is to make the most of your resources to minimize the possibility of failure. And this is a Lovecraft game. You know that bad stuff is going to happen, and that's part of the fun. Overall, I'm really enjoying the Arkham Horror living card game. I've played through all of the 3 introductory scenarios with Roland Banks, who's kind of your starter investigator, and I'm actually planning to spend this afternoon trying out the new mini adventure pack, The Curse of the Rougarou. However, I would say this with one caveat, which is that one of the problems with this game is that it comes in the box already pretty much needing an expansion. Once you've played through the first 3 scenarios, you're going to be dying for fresh cards, you're going to have all these experience points that you want to spend on deck upgrades, but the problem is that I suspect that none of the really cool cards have showed up yet. So the good news is that it looks like Fantasy Flight is very serious about supporting this game. There is a deluxe expansion that is coming out, I believe, January 12th, and I've pre-ordered it. But just in the core box, there's not quite enough game to make me happy. So for right now, I'm happy that I've invested. I'm looking forward to future installments, but if you're a wait and see sort of person, I would wait and see for just a little bit longer. Happy gaming!
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Throw Punch Lunch. I'm Brian Drake with the latest retro. So, it's been a long day. Started my day in Roswell, New Mexico. I flew home, drove to Lubbock, Texas, then flew home, and then drove from New Orleans to home. So it's midnight right now, so my brain's not 100% in it, but I'm excited because I love Throw Punch Lunch, and I'm glad to be here with you guys. It's not a complaint. It's just a reason for why my hair looks a little wilder than normal. So, here's the deal. I thought I would borrow a concept from one of my favorite podcasts, and it's this concept of stuff I like, stuff I hate for the Throat Punch Lunch segment that I'm going to be doing for the next few weeks. Stuff I like, stuff I hate is basically this. It's in the hobby, in the industry, things I like about board gaming, and then some things I just hate about board gaming. Now, most of that's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. I don't want to run anybody off by the word hate, of course, but just some fun stuff. So, first of all, stuff I like. One thing that I love about board gaming is that when function and aesthetics mix, mechanics and aesthetics mix perfectly. Brand new good example of this is right here in Energy Empire. Now, if you've played this game, you'll see I was a little disappointed at first because one of the things is it's a worker placement game, and I was like, wait a minute, why aren't there any wooden meeples or little plastic miniatures to put your workers out on? It's just a cardboard chit token thing that's the size of a Space Hulk board in thickness. There's a reason why it's that thick, and a reason why it's flat. One of the mechanics in this game is that you have to kind of bid against, in a sense, your opponents for how bad you want that action space. Sure, you can go there, Grande worker style. Everybody can take the same space if they want to, but each time you go to a space that someone's already at, you have to make your stack one step higher. So at a glance, you can tell how many you need to add to make your stack higher so that you can take the space. So it's a brilliant idea to make a mechanic and the aesthetic of the little thick cardboard token workers with like overalls and a hard hat, which is adorable. Makes sense because the aesthetic and the mechanics work together. That is my favorite thing about board games, is when something looks great for a reason, not just for the sake of being. Now, I don't mind certain things being overproduced if as long as they work, as long as they make sense and they have kind of a purpose. For instance, Fear of Dracula, you could do that with standees. Eldritch Horror does use standees. You could use miniatures. Fantasy Flight knows this. However, it's kind of a touchy subject, and this leads us to stuff I hate for today. Stuff I hate is for when a game is overproduced, have no problem with that necessarily, for no apparent reason at all. Now, I know that's kind of the whole idea of overproduction, but the biggest sinner in this category would be someone, a lot of Kickstarter games, but especially one Kickstarter game by a certain Jasco Games. My favorite franchise of all Nintendo franchises growing up was Mega Man. They had a chance to do it big, to do it amazing, and in fact, your player miniatures look incredible. The enemy players look incredible, but there is no reason in any of the game rules for there to be miniatures of the basic minions. There's not. They just get in the way. They literally just get in the way. I love the way they look, the little nutsies mentors, whatever you call them, the enemies. They're just incredible looking. Some of the best sculpts in gaming right now are these pre-painted Mega Man miniatures. The problem is there's absolutely no reason to have these minion miniatures just on the board. They literally get in the way. These little tiny cards are supposed to tell you how many enemies you have, and you have tokens so that you can kind of stack them and show. There's no reason to have a plastic miniature for that. It doesn't do anything other than just, oh, well, look, this is who you're fighting. It looks like this in 3D. You don't put it on the board, it doesn't have a space on the board. Honestly, the bosses don't really have a purpose other than it's a trophy system. You get this trophy if you beat them. There's no purpose to it. So while I love it, while I think it's beautiful, I just hate it when a game uses stuff just to use stuff that has no purpose at all. So that is this week's Throat Punch Lunch segment by me, Bryan Drake, for the latest retro. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and check us out, all that kind of stuff. Check out the reviews coming on the Dice Tower Network. We will see you next time. Thanks.
Hi, I'm the Board Game Renegade, and today I'm going to be comparing and contrasting Base Pandemic with the two rethemes that came out in 2016, Reign of Cthulhu and Iberia. Let's start by briefly talking about the goals of all of these Pandemic games. In Base Pandemic, each of the players assumes the role of an employee of the CDC, which all have different special abilities, and what they are doing is they are traveling around the world, trying to find and cure 4 diseases. And in this version of Pandemic, they are also trying to prevent 4 diseases from spreading. However, back in the day, they couldn't cure these diseases. So what you're trying to do in this game is simply research them. You cannot cure them. The diseases in this are not generic at all, such as yellow fever, malaria, typhus, and cholera. Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu takes place in the early 1900s, and the players assume the roles of different investigators, traveling around 4 towns and trying to fend off cultists who are summoning Shoggoths. And what the investigators are really trying to do ultimately, though, is to close the 4 gates to prevent the Old Ones from appearing and destroying the planets. Pandemic is a global affair, so as you can see, this is a map of the entire world. And the players in this game travel either by ferry across bodies of water to adjacent cities, or they travel to adjacent land cities by driving. The players can also take planes by either discarding a card of the city they're in, like this one here, St. Petersburg, to take a charter flight to any city that they want, or the players could discard a card of the city that they want to go to, and that represents a direct flight to that city. So Pandemic Iberia takes place on a smaller scale, and it is the 19th century, so planes didn't exist. In this game, players move around by either taking a boat from an adjacent city to another adjacent city across a body of water, or they can take a carriage to move to a land adjacent city, or the players can also discard a card from a port city to a port city of the color that matches the color of the card that you're getting rid of. So you can move right over here to Vigo. And the last way that players move around in this game is along railroad tracks that you will be building as you play the game. And in Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, you're dealing with an even smaller map than in Pandemic Iberia. And the players move around in this game simply by walking from location to location or traveling by bus. This is a bus stop, and so is this over here. you could discard a card of a town color that you want to move to. So this is Arkham, which is green. You discard this, and you could move to the bus stop of that color. Or you could discard a card of the color of the bus stop that you are already in to move to any other bus stop that you want to, such as over here. In Base Pandemic, the threat that you're dealing with are 4 diseases represented by cubes of 4 different colors, and you're basically trying to prevent them from outbreaking and spreading all over the world. In Pandemic Iberia, you're also faced with 4 different diseases spreading around the map. However, these diseases may have different characteristics if you play with these extra cards. All of these cards show you how the 4 different diseases may respond differently as you play. And in Pandemic Iberia, you also have to worry about patients, which are represented by these cubes, moving towards hospitals, and the hospitals can eventually become overrun. In Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, you're dealing with cultists who are performing rituals to do different things, such as summon Shoggoths. Then you have to worry about the Shoggoths potentially marching towards gates and entering them. And these pesky cultists are trying to awaken these old ones, and that is bad. In Base Pandemic, you lose if you have too many outbreaks, if the diseases spread way too much around the world, or if you run out of time. To win, you have to find a cure for all 4 diseases: yellow, red, blue, and black. In Pandemic Iberia, you lose the same exact ways as you would in regular Pandemic, and you win by researching all 4 of the diseases: red, blue, black, and yellow. In Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, the players lose if Cthulhu is ever summoned, if there are ever too many Shoggoths or cultists on the map, if the players run out of time, or if all of the players go mad. The players win by closing all 4 of the gates. And here are some other thematic differences between the games. In regular Pandemic, you could actually eradicate diseases after you cure them. In Reign of Cthulhu, your characters can go mad. And in Pandemic Iberia, you can purify water to slow down the spread of disease. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace out.
Hi everybody, welcome to the first installment of Kickstarter Thrash-Up. Now, what's this going to be about? It's pretty much me talking about Amerithrash games that are up on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Even though it says Kickstarter, we want to give Indiegogo some love too. They have a lot of really cool projects and really pick out the things that interest me. Miniatures and war games and just games that catch my eyes, dungeon crawls, all the cool things in the world. Take for instance Dan Verson, whose projects I love so much, who's done Tiger Leader, is now up on Kickstarter. If you check it out, is doing Sherman Leader. This is a great game and done very, very well. Tiger Leader was excellent, but if you go to that page, you can learn all the benefits that you can get, and you can actually realize that he's made some improvements to the game, which I'm very excited to see. And if you just go to check it out, I think you'll really, really enjoy it, especially if you're a big fan of Tiger Leader. We'll be covering tons and tons of things throughout the year, and I'm really excited about this segment. This is something that Sam and I came up with, and we decided to bring it here to Throat Punch Lunch. So we'll get started next week, and I can't wait to get started. And I will see you next time on Kickstarter Thrash-Up.
So that is Throat Punch Lunch episode 14 in the books. Thank you guys so much for coming back every couple of weeks to support Throat Punch Lunch. We appreciate that sincerely. I hope you've been able to catch on to the fact that we're kind of diversifying a little bit here. And that was part of my original design. It just kind of happened that we started off on a very heavy miniature, gamey, Amerithrashy, painting miniatures kind of first foot forward, and that's cool. That I think that part of the hobby should be highlighted a little bit because it gets overlooked or just kind of shunned sometimes. But now we've got we got a segment for solo gaming. We've got a strategically thematic segment that brings in some Euro games that have pretty strong thematic elements to them. We're going to be starting up Amerithrashy Kickstarter segment with Rob, and I'm excited to see what he has coming in. I'm glad that Marty is just really settling in and becoming very comfortable with his segment and just providing that comic element, but not just comic, it's also very informational, and I really enjoy that. So there's just so many things that I'm loving that this show is starting to do, and I know I'm kind of biased, I got that, but at the same time, it just means it's going to be a better show for you guys, and that's what I'm really striving for. So as always, give me some comments down in the comments section. We always read those things, even if it's specifically for a contributor. Now remember, be constructive, y'all. This is a lot of work putting this together, and it's kind of hard sometimes to watch people and read about people just bashing your hard work. So be nice, be constructive as always, but please let us know if you've got any ideas for us, and we will take those in stride as we go forward. Thank you again for joining us. Contributors, thank you so much for all the work that you put into your segments, and hey, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks, because that's where the flip side is.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.